Hello friends, and welcome to a slightly different type of cook show. This is not necessarily your ready steady cook. This is all things Voom Sparta Fuel, but also different weird and wonderful ways that I have used it to help enhance the flavor, but also enhance the nutritional profile of the fueling itself. Now let's look into this. Voom Sparta is their savoury version of their fueling systems, which is a fantastic thing for us adventurers and endurance athletes, because we can get a little bit bored of sweet stuff, and you can eat too much sweet stuff to the point where if you have taste fatigue and you're then struggling to take on fuel, well, you're going to be fighting a losing battle on the endurance front because you need fuel to keep going. The answer is finding savoury options. Now, I took Voom's Sparta Fuel and I've enhanced it a little bit by just adding other elements of food, as we can see here, which we'll dive into in a minute, just to make it a little bit more like an overall meal. Because especially when we're on big, long endurance adventures, and we're going to use the example of my Strathpuffer attempt, which Voom very kindly sponsored earlier in January, as a bit of a case study throughout. When we're on these big adventures, savoury fuels are the things that are going to, well, essentially save us when it comes to our overall nutritional strategy for the event itself. Now, a quick introduction to the Strathpuffer. What on earth is it? Now, the Strathpuffer is a 24-hour mountain bike race, said to be one of, if not the toughest 24-hour mountain bike race in the country. It is in Scotland, it is in January, so you can guess what the weather was like, and it is mightily cold. As many laps as a 12.5 kilometre track as you can possibly do in 24 hours. And I went with the strategy of 10 laps. I thought 10 would be a very respectable distance. Voom popped into my inbox and said, hey, do you fancy giving a go at the Strathpuffer? It's in 5 days' time. What more are you going to say apart from yes, absolutely. So here we are, we've got through the event, and I want to talk to you through a few of the different nutrition strategies that I used incorporating Sparta Fuel here. Now, let's look at Sparta Fuel. We are tomato and red pepper flavoured. When we're looking at per portion, which is roughly exactly what's in this pack here, I've got the smaller pack here, so per pack, 327 calories, 38 grams of carbohydrates, 11 grams of protein and 11 grams of fat. So as you can tell, it's not just a carbohydrate based fueling system, which is where we can add it to more real foods to make it a more impactful, nutritious meal. And of the options that we've got, I've tried a lot of different recipes. Some have been disastrous and others have been actually really, really good. There are some that I'm going to say today that you're going to be questioning me. I'm just going to ask you to trust me, and I'm going to ask you to try them out for yourself, because this is where your nutrition strategy can really go to the next level. Once we are looking at big endurance adventures, having this savoury strategy is going to be really, really important. So let's dive into what we do. Now, first and foremost, the best thing about Sparta Fuel is it can be eaten and drank hot. So we're going to put some water in a kettle, and we're going to get that on the boil, because I'm going to show you through a bunch of different recipes that I've used so far. So now that we've got this on, let's talk through a couple of the options that we're using. Now, a couple of my favourites. The one and only time I'm ever going to buy this in the supermarket, and I did question my life choices when I bought it, is packet mashed potato. On a normal average meal, folks, I would not touch this with a 10-foot barge pole. However, when it comes to embracing a fueling strategy that's light, that's all you need to do is add water, then this is a very good option. This pack of 100 grams will add in another 200 calories, and it will add in another 50 grams of carbohydrates, which is a really, really good amount of fuel. Once that's added into Sparta Fuel, you've got essentially a highly nutritious meal as a whole. What we're also using are these mug shots. Anything that's basically like a pot noodle. These are freeze-dried noodles. You just add water and you're away to go. I've got a couple of different flavors here. One Cajun pasta, which was really, really good. One slightly questionable, but mac and cheese was actually a really good option, because if you're adding tomato and roasted pepper flavor into it, it works really, really well. The couple of things that you're probably going to question my life choices on is this mysterious looking liquid is my own home brew of red onion pickle liquor. You're probably questioning what I'm talking about here, but this really works. What I really like about Sparta Fuel is it's a relatively plain flavor profile. It's not too punchy, which means you can add punchy things to it. And when I first tried it, I initially thought this needs salt. And I think this needs something like a pickle liquor to go into it. This is sour, it's bitter, and it's also a little bit sweet because of the red peppers. It works really, really well. And this is a homemade tomato-based sauce. I brought this because simply when I was on the Strathpuffer, I made gnocchi. And with that gnocchi, I put a nice, rich tomato-based sauce, half of which I mixed with this. And as much as I don't have that recipe with me today, I have got some of the sauce that I've managed to replicate, and then we're going to have to use our imagination when we're looking at gnocchi. What we've also got is another tomato-based sort of salsa sauce, which is really good if you want a bit more of a sharp and punchy flavour. I've used this specifically, mixed it with that, and just smeared it into wraps, rolled them up, got them downrange. They're really, really good. A couple of other things, tuna. You're probably looking at me a bit weird if I've got tuna, but again, this really, really works as well. And then if you just don't want to push the boat out too much, but you want to enhance the flavour of this, we've got stock, chicken stock or vegetable stock. Obviously, Sparta Fuel is entirely vegan, so if we want to keep it that way, adding vegetable stock is a really good option. However, if you want to just change things up a little bit, chicken stock is a fantastic option, and it is pretty much a staple in my kitchen. I think I use chicken stock in literally everything. So, we're going to dive into it. We're going to see how this is getting on. We are nearly there, and then we are going to get started. Now, a word of caution. When you put hot water in a shaker and you shake it, the lid will pop off. You need to be mindful of this, folks, and I would exercise a lot of caution when shaking it up. You don't put hot water in there and just shake it like you would a normal shaker. The lid will pop off. So we're going to start off by just simply stirring it. So we're going to use warm water, not hot water, for the sake of this video. I'm just going to pop it straight in there. I'm going to make up this batch, and then we're going to use it in a variety of different ways. Now then, we've got our Sparta Fuel in the Voom shaker. We're going to mix that up. Now, as it stands on its own, it tastes great. There's a little bit of bitterness to it, there's a little bit of savoury notes to it, and there's a touch of sweetness in there as well, which I think makes a really, really good fueling system. If we want to enhance this flavour, then we can just add in stock. And the beautiful thing about using these single portion packets is we can add in powdered stock. We don't always need to use the liquid stock. Now, when we've got this powdered stock, we're going to use this today. You'll get it in cubes, or you can get powdered bouillon in packets. And all we're going to do is we're going to get that in there and simply crumble it in. That as a whole is going to taste fantastic, but we're going to take it one step further. We're going to go Cajun pasta today, I think. And what I'm going to do to show you is I'm going to use one of these packs, and we'll get this opened up in here. Now, essentially, that's just going to soak. I'm going to put a little bit of gas through there because it's a bit cold out here today. And we're going to get that heating up. So, strategy-wise, what I'm going to show you today is cooking the overall pasta dish. We're going to use both of these sachets because I want to make a good enough portion for you all to see. Now, as we've got this cooking up, I'm just going to read out some of the nutritional value of these mug shots. You can use any type of freeze-dried noodles. When I was in the army, we used to mix super noodles with our ration packs because it just enhanced the flavour. But I think, quite frankly, anything enhanced the flavour of army ration packs. But these are really, really good. 233 calories per sachet, 43 grams of carbohydrates, 6.2 grams of protein, and 2.8 grams of fat. So once we've mixed it with an entire portion of this, what that's going to do is it's going to enhance it to almost 20 grams of protein, to a solid 70 to 80 grams of carbohydrates, and a decent amount of fat, around 20 grams of fat, which is really good. The benefit of this as well is because it's so easy to eat, it means it's also easy to digest. And when we are making fueling strategies for our big and long adventures, the last thing we want is something that's very, very high in fibre and therefore takes a long time to digest. Because if we are going to be continuing on our way relatively soon after we've consumed this, which generally speaking you most likely will be, you are more likely to see that food again when you're later on down the trail, and that's the last thing that we want. So now we have got this boiling up, which is great. I think I need a little bit of extra water in there. I feel like I might have made too big a portion of this, but it's good to show you, I think, on camera as well. When we are looking at altering and adding this to different ingredients, we want to make sure that the flavours balance. So for example, if we've got a tomato and red pepper based flavour, then something else that's also tomato or red pepper or roasted vegetable based flavour is going to work really, really well. Something like a mac and cheese flavour is going to work well, tomato, cheese, that sort of thing. In this case, I made a tomato and chicken based sauce. Something salty like chicken or vegetable stock will work really, really well as well. And don't forget, we've already mixed the vegetable stock cube in here as well. And what you've got here is a very, very easy to eat, quick, warm meal that is much more nutritionally dense because we've added Sparta Fuel into it. What I'm not going to show you on this video is the making of packet mash, because I'm going to use that as a break glass in case of emergency bit of fueling for a future adventure, but you will get the idea. We're going to add hot water, we're going to mix it up. I want to make it as loose as possible, so it's essentially PVA glue texture, and we're adding in our Sparta Fuel from there just to bring it up to the texture that we want. From there, you can add whatever you want in it. What I personally did was I had this mixed with Sparta Fuel, and then I just put some slices of chicken, cooked chicken on top, and then a bunch of tomato sauce, and that made a really, really good dinner. I think we're essentially done here with this. So I'm going to just turn that down, give that a bit of a stir. And again, what we're aiming for here is an easy to eat texture. So the more sauce, the better, because it's just easy to then drink. I don't know about you, but when I'm on big adventures, the last thing I want is something that's just difficult to eat, i.e. dry and hard to swallow, or requires a lot of liquid to go down with it as well. The more saucy we can make the food, the easier it is to digest, the easier our overall nutritional strategy is going to be. Now, while that's cooking over, I've brought tubs of tuna because I've essentially made a tomato-based sauce similar to this with Sparta Fuel before. And if you just mix these two together, this is a no drain, so you don't need to drain it, tuna tub. You put that into a bowl, mix it together. Not only have you got 20 grams of protein in there and an additional 10 from that, but you've also got something that's really, really easy to eat and essentially works as an entire meal. If you're absolutely done with sweet stuff for the day, something like this is going to really, really help. And for the pickle liquor, you're going to have to take my word for it, folks, and just try it out for yourselves. Trust me, it works. When you try that and you try a bit of that, you will know and understand that those two go hand in hand together. Now, I think we're about ready on this one, so we can turn that off. Now, as you can see here, we've got a decent saucy based meal. It's going to be super easy to eat, full of pasta, full of Sparta Fuel, an excellent way of getting our fuel in. That is why I think Sparta Fuel is a very, very versatile fueling system to have in our arsenal when it comes to our big and long adventures. You can essentially add whatever you want to it. You could even put this tuna in there as well. You've got an entire meal. You could eat that for dinner at home. The whole point of this is, again, to make sure that you are able to get enough calories and enough macronutrients in there to fuel the adventure required. If we find ourselves stuck too much on sweet stuff, or even stuck too much on savoury stuff, you'll get to a point where you have taste fatigue. You'll get to the point where you don't want to eat anymore, and that is the point that we need to avoid. By having a multidisciplinary approach to our nutrition, we can ensure that we are getting enough and adequate amounts. The more energy we have, the longer we can go, the more enjoyable our overall adventure is going to be. Now, one thing I do want to touch on before we go is, we've talked about savoury stuff. I also just want to let you into a little trade secret, and this is something I highly recommend you take if you like having a hot liquid with you if it's a very, very cold adventure. Now, this is a pocket rocket. It's a lemon and lime pocket rocket. If you melt that into some boiling water, and literally all you need to do is get a mug of hot water, put that in it and stir it until it's dissolved, it is the most amazing drink on the planet. You're going to have to take my word for it and try it yourself, because it is sensational. Once it has dissolved, you can let that liquid go cold and it will still remain dissolved. However, if you choose to drink it warm, it is one of the best things that you will choose to do in your overall life. And that was something that I definitely leaned upon when it came to the Strath Puffer. It was very, very cold. There were times where morale was significantly low, and things like this really pick you up. There is a psychological aspect to what it is that we eat. There is also a nutritional aspect of obviously what it is that we're eating and what we are fueling ourselves with. So we need to make sure that we are addressing across the board here. Sparta Fuel is a fantastic tool for that job. So this is literally scraping the surface of all the things that you can do with Sparta Fuel, all the different recipes you can make. I'm going to put a list together for Voom of all the different recipes that I have already tried and tested and work very well. And then it's down to you to try it out, test it out, and see what happens. When you're going for your big adventures, your big overnighters, your long endurance challenges, this is the fueling system for you. So thank you for watching. Catch you next time. Enjoy your outdoor culinary experience. Get some Sparta Fuel on you. I'm going to have some good days out on the hill.